Greetings, my fellow Fright Fiends. It's your buddy Boogeyman Ben here for a new episode of Boogeyman Ben's Horror Zone, and this is a tag video. This is a tag that I received from my good friend Sean Erschen. This tag was originally started by a YouTuber called Isaac's Reviews, and this is the Marvel vs. DC tag. So not a horror tag, this is a comic book tag. And I was happy to do this because I am a comic book collector. I have been a comic book collector since I was about 3 years old. And it's a total of 7 questions, and I'm just going to run through them, and I hope everyone enjoys this. And again, Sean, thanks so much for tagging me, and I'll put a link down below to Sean's channel. He's an amazing YouTuber, awesome guy. Does quite a bit of different types of videos, focuses on horror, comic books, science fiction. And I think everyone should check out his channel and give him some more support, because he sure deserves it. So a total of 7 questions. I'm going to run through them right now. Question number 1 is, if you were a superhero, who would you be and why? This might come off as strange to some people, but again, going into my love of monsters, I grew up loving The Incredible Hulk. The Bill Bixby, Lou Ferrigno television show was one of the first television shows I remember truly loving and being obsessed with. You know, just I was so fascinated by the fact that Bill Bixby as David Banner was turning into this monster, not realizing it was 2 actors when I was a kid. I really thought he was turning into this huge beast called the Hulk. So I think just going back to that, I would love to be the Hulk. There are times in my life that I get very angry, and I think there's times that I could actually turn into this giant rage monster. The thing that I always was drawn to about the Hulk is there was this character that wanted to do the right thing, even though there was this anger in him, and there was this compassionate side to him, and I always was drawn to that this monster, this thing that was scary, could actually be a force for good. And I think I just, you know, still, even at the age I am now, I still am drawn to those television shows. I still absolutely love it, and I think that's why I would, if I had to be a superhero, that was what I would want to be, because I'd want to turn into something else. I think that would be pretty awesome, and have these huge, these powers, this strength. Yeah, it's something I would think would be pretty awesome. So question number 2 is, if you were a supervillain, who would you be? My favorite supervillain of all time is the Hobgoblin. This little bust of him that I have right here. So if I had to be a supervillain, I would be the Hobgoblin. I just thought he was a really interesting, mysterious character, especially in the 80s when I was a real little kid, and the character was first introduced in Amazing Spider-Man number 238. There was a mystery around him, like who was he, and there was all these red herrings because he would frame other people, Lefty Donovan, Flash Thompson, Ned Leeds. I mean, it was really cool, and I just think I like the trickster mentality of him. I also think his costume is awesome. I love the goblin mask and the glider and everything, and I just always thought he was more interesting than the Green Goblin. I just love the pumpkin bombs and everything about him. I just think he was you know, just a genius character, and one that I've always been drawn to, and if I had to be a supervillain, that's the one I would be. Question number 3 is, if you had a superpower, what would it be and why? I think super strength, you know, being able to, you know, help people out of, you know, situations that a normal man wouldn't be able to do, like lifting cars up, you know, breaking through walls, things like that. I would love to be that strong and to be able to use those powers for good. Question number 4 is, do you prefer superheroes or supervillains? You're definitely going to go with superheroes. There are a lot of villains that I do enjoy. Hobgoblin is one. I love the Joker from the DC universe. But yeah, I'd always want to be the hero. That's just my makeup and my nature. So yeah, I go for the heroes. Question number 5 is, do you prefer Marvel or DC? I grew up loving the Hulk, and the Hulk was from Marvel, and I have always been a Marvel fan. Marvel was always my favorite comic book company growing up, and those characters mean so much more to me than the DC characters. I thought the DC characters were kind of boring with a few exceptions. But yeah, it was always Marvel for me growing up, and I think that just started with my affinity for the Hulk as a kid. Question number 6 is, who's your favorite DC character and why? My favorite DC character will always be Batman, and I think for me, Batman became kind of interesting watching Scooby-Doo, the Scooby-Doo mysteries, where Batman and Robin were like a guest star. I was fascinated by Batman and his rogues gallery, the Joker and Penguin and all of them. And I think my reasoning for liking Batman so much was just like his gadgets, and I thought the Batcave was fascinating. I loved the Batmobile and just all of these things that he had. that he was just an ordinary guy, but he had all this money so he could buy all these things, that all these toys and gadgets and things like that to fight crime. I just thought that was really cool and interesting. But then the movies, I really got into Batman after the 1989 Michael Keaton, Tim Burton, Jack Nicholson movie. That made me a fan of the character, more so in the movies than the comic books. I've never really been a huge comic book collector of Batman. I did collect him for a while in the early 90s, and then the late 2000s I was picking up a few Batman books and reading them, but I just never got into them. I don't know why. I mean, I think the movies are more I'm more a fan of like the Chris Nolan movies and the early Tim Burton stuff than the comic books. But yeah, I love Batman, and I think a close second for me in terms of favorite DC characters would be Swamp Thing. I really love Swamp Thing. Yeah, I think for the most part it's Batman. Batman's gonna be my number one for DC. And question number 7, final question: who is your favorite Marvel character? The Hulk was introduced to me through the Lou Ferrigno, Bill Bixby series, but then I got into comic books when I realized there was comics with the character. My mom bought me my first comic from 7-Eleven when I was like 3 or 4 years old. I still have that comic. It's somewhere here in the zone, packed up. But yeah, I've always been a fan of the Hulk. Followed him. I still have every Hulk comic, no matter how ragged it is. I have every one from when I was a kid. I still collect them today. It's just he's just an amazing character, such a tortured character, and I just really identified with the loner of Bruce Banner, David Banner on the television show, but the character that was just sort of a tortured soul that was trying everything he could do to restrain the monster that was inside. I was just enthralled by all the different stories that they had and the story arcs and what the character went through and all the different changes that happened to the Hulk over the years. I mean, he's just an amazing character and one that will always be my favorite. I think it just, I was an early impression from that show, and just it never left me. And even, 41 years after watching that show for the first time, this character will always remain my favorite, and nothing will ever change that. So that's going to be it, my fellow fiends. Like I said, something a little bit different. I know it's not horror, but my friend tagged me, so I'm going to answer the tag, or answer the call, as he always says. So check out Sean Ershen's channel down below. If anybody else wants to do this tag, please feel free to do so if you're a fan of comic books. I'm about a week late on doing this one, so Sean, I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you guys think about my answers in the comments section below. We'd love to hear from everyone. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take it easy, stay scared as always. I have a Patreon page if everybody wants to help support me. The link is down below. And if you do help support me, Dracula here will get more treats, and Dracula really loves his treats. So any support that you can give me would be very, very much appreciated. Right, Drac?